Hello and welcome to my first Pokemon mini-series here. I'm actually going to show you guys my battles against the Elite Four of the Penn State Pokemon Challenge. And if you don't know what that is, you should definitely check it out in the link below. My first matchup is against Pat Kowalski. I'm going to start with Blissey, figuring it was a pretty safe bet, and he starts with Scizor. I decide to switch out Blissey right away just because I don't want to take a powerful superpower or something like that. Most Scizors don't carry superpower anymore, but I just wanted to be safe. So I switched in Mawile, and I'm going to get the Intimidate boost here. And he's going to switch out. He can't really do much against me as Scizor. He switches into Volcarona, which I'm not really sure why he switched out afterward. But I decided to switch into Dragonite, knowing that Volcarona really can't handle Dragonite with any of its typical moves, unless it's carrying HP Ice. So he goes for Stone Edge, and fortunately misses on the first turn. I go for Dragon Dance, thinking that I could probably one-hit this thing after a +1. But I go for Dragon Claw, and I get him down to, I think, 3 HP. So that kind of stinks for me. But he goes for Stone Edge, doesn't do a ton because of multi-scale, and I'm actually going to get the Weakness Policy boost here. So the next turn I just go for Extreme Speed. I figured it was the safe option. Wasn't sure if Heracross got any priority moves, so I just wanted to minimize the damage that my Dragonite would take. So he sends in Gallade on the next turn, and knowing that I'll outspeed him, I go for Dragon Claw, and he actually has a Focus Sash on Gallade. Wasn't really sure what his Mega was on this team, so I mean he's got a Slowbro, he's got Gallade, he's got I don't know what else, Scizor, so it could be any number of Pokemon. He beats my Dragonite with a Zen Headbutt. Knowing that he'd probably Shadow Sneak, I switched in Aegislash and went for Swords Dance. Now I carry double Weakness Policy on my team because the Penn State Pokemon Challenge didn't have an item clause, which is really interesting. You're actually going to see Pat carrying 2 Focus Sashes later. So, I mean, we both capitalized on the opportunity to double up on items. I have 2 of the most dangerous sweepers holding Weakness Policy, hoping for a sweep either way. Looking back, I probably could have King Shielded there to minimize the damage on the next turn, but I just go for Shadow Sneak, and it ends up not really mattering. I'm going to get this Shadow Sneak off on the Volcarona as it goes for Heat Wave, and he's quite easily going to beat this Aegislash in Blade form. So double Focus Sash, good call on his part. He definitely prevented a sweep. I don't think he would have had anything else to beat that Aegislash had Volcarona not been sashed. Now I switch in Blissey, and predicting him to switch out, I actually go for Stealth Rock to try to kill it on the way back in. And Stealth Rock support is really good for this team. I know my Dragonite and Aegislash are both down at the moment, but in other games, this Stealth Rock has been quite crucial to beating other Focus Sashers. He probably doesn't have any more on his team, knowing what he has left, but throwing them out there, it's always good to get the extra damage. Now I go for Flamethrower, hoping that Scizor would stay in, but he actually U-turns out into Latios, and this isn't going to do a lot of damage. I run a physically bulky set on this Blissey. He's got a Bold Nature and max HP and defense. So I don't know if I invested anything in Special Attack. I may have invested a little bit in Special Attack as well. But anyway, he goes for Defog, predicting the switch out, as I predicted the Psyshock. So I'm going to bring in Greninja and go straight for Dark Pulse here. Now this is a modest Greninja with a Life Orb, and Pat doesn't know that. Pat is probably expecting him to be timid like most other Greninjas. So I go for the Dark Pulse and hit him pretty darn hard. Scizor doesn't really like that. I switch out, not wanting Greninja to take any extra damage. So I go into Mawile, still knowing that he can't really hit Mawile with anything. And Mawile has Fire Fang, so I feel pretty safe in that decision to switch. Looking back, I could have Dark Pulsed and beat him, unless he's running something crazy like Scarf Scizor, Not really sure why he decided to U-turn there, but he did, and my Greninja's safe, and that's all that matters to me. So I switch into Blissey against this Volcarona, knowing that it would probably Quiver Dance. And Volcarona probably can't do a ton of damage to Blissey, even though it is physically defensive. I'm going to rely on its natural special bulk. He goes for Giga Drain, as I go for the Flamethrower. And at +1, that actually does more than I expected to Blissey. I go for Flamethrower, and unfortunately I'm not going to kill him. I think he actually has a net gain there in HP, so I'm going to have to switch out. I expect him to go for another Giga Drain, so I switch into Mawile, who is, hilariously enough, my most expendable Pokemon at this point. He goes for the Giga Drain again, and he's not going to do a ton. And now the mind games begin, because he knows I want a Sucker Punch, so he's going to start Quiver Dancing. And at 2 Quiver Dances, he could probably do a number to my team. I don't know if I have anything else that can beat that Volcarona on the side at this point. He goes for a 3rd Quiver Dance on the next turn, and I just continue to go for Sucker Punch. My strategy was really just to go for Sucker Punch 8 times in a row and hope that Pat gave in, and he does. So he switches into Slowbro, which is his actual Mega, and he's going to go ahead and Mega Evolve on the first turn and Calm Mind as I switch into Deoxys. So he's got this Mega Slowbro out. He's extremely bulky, great physical bulk. I'm assuming he's Bold Nature. He goes for Calm Mind, and he's setting up against my wall. A little bit nervous at this point. I don't really have anything that's going to do a ton of damage to this Slowbro if he gets Calm Minds up. My Mawile is going to be faster than him, but I don't think Mawile can OHKO it. Luckily for me, though, I have Calm Mind on my Deoxys, and I'm going to be able to Thunderbolt this Slowbro. And Thunderbolt was actually a last-minute choice for Deoxys. Because he has Calm Mind, I had originally run Psyshock and Ice Beam as his 2 moves, and Blissey had Thunderbolt. But at the last minute, I decided that if I get a chance to set up with Deoxys and go for some kind of sweep, any Steel type would completely stop that. So I swapped Thunderbolt and Ice Beam between Deoxys and Blissey, and I think that choice really paid off for me in this challenge. He gets a critical hit against my Deoxys, which is huge. You might not be able to see it, but his Scald did about maybe a little over 1/3 of my HP the first time, and then he got the crit on the second turn and beat my Deoxys. So huge critical hit for him. And I'm going to have to go into Mawile. Now, not knowing whether he wanted to slack off or go for another Calm Mind, I decided just to play it safe and go for Play Rough, knowing that I outspeed him. Now, finally Mega Evolving myself to do maximum damage. I go for Sucker Punch on the second turn, thinking that I might be able to take this thing out. It was probably my best opportunity to kill Slowbro, but he actually goes for a second Slack Off, and now I'm pretty nervous. I go for Sucker Punch again, thinking, you know, I'm backed into a corner, I don't have a way to really beat this thing, and I just have to damage it as much as possible. Luckily, he doesn't Calm Mind on that turn. I think he would have won had he not gone for Scald, but he does, and Greninja's actually going to be able to beat this thing. I did damage calculations afterward. I was surprised at the time that Greninja beat this thing with a Dark Pulse at +2 special defense, but Greninja actually does, modest Greninja with Life Orb actually does about 50 to 60%. So that was not any kind of dice roll for me. That was a definite KO. Scizor comes in, Bullet Punches, doesn't do too much to Greninja, and I get the Dark Pulse off, and I'm able to beat it. Now Pat's down to his last Pokemon, which is Latios, and I'm just going to go for Dark Pulse, but because I'm running Modest Greninja, not Timid. Latios outspeeds me, and he's going to be able to beat me with Draco Meteor. And I'm assuming he just runs Draco Meteor, Psyshock as his attacks on Latios. Otherwise, the Draco Meteor would have been a pretty bad choice, because my last Pokemon is Blissey, and thankfully I have Ice Beam on Blissey. That last minute change really saved me there. He goes for Psyshock, but he's at -2, so it doesn't do very much to me at all. And because I have Soft Boiled and Ice Beam, I pretty much win the game. Not a lot that he can do against me at this point. We're going to continue to throw attacks around for a little bit, but Pat's eventually going to realize that there's no way he can beat this Blissey, even if he stalls me out. He would need probably a double critical hit to win this match, and so he goes ahead and concedes after I soft boil. So great match by Pat. If you guys haven't checked out the Penn State Pokemon Society or the Penn State Pokemon Challenge yet, I'll link them below. Definitely check them out. Definitely get involved if you're at Penn State or around the State College area. It's a really, really fun day, and I had a blast doing it. So I hope you guys liked the video, and be sure to stick around for more. I've got the next 3 matches of my Elite Four coming up probably after this weekend. I'm actually going to VGC 2015 in Georgia later today. I'm leaving, so I'll get those uploaded as soon as possible. And be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Shwheelz. I'll link that as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Hello and welcome to my first Pokemon mini-series here. I'm actually going to show you guys my battles against the Elite Four of the Penn State Pokemon Challenge. And if you don't know what that